First story. My name is Andres, and I lived in Caracas throughout my life. I grew up with many stories of the city, hateful places, old spirits, and stories of mysterious events have woven themselves in this beautiful city's clothes. But there was a story that always disturbed me more than others. El Templo de San Francisco, Church of St. Francis. Located at the center of Caracas, this ancient church has always been an important milestone. This not only holds spiritual significance, but a mysterious weight. Some people may feel, even if they do not always understand it. I remember when I was a teenager, hearing about its haunted reputation for the first time. My uncle, a type of historian, will tell me the stories of the monks who once lived there, praying day by day, never leaving the hall of the hall. He claimed that something else, something is not completely human, persists. Years later, after a series of individual tragedies, I found myself at a crossroads in life. I needed a place to find peace, clean my mind. One evening, curious and operated by a deep, inexplicable bridge, I decided to visit the church. I did not expect to find anything from the simplest. I did not believe in ghosts or souls, not at all. That evening, everything changed. As I stepped inside, I immediately felt a change in the air. It was not just a cold draft or the smell of chronic wood. It was somewhat heavy. Church was there for centuries. Its stone walls were soaked with the prayers and life of those who came in front of me. It felt ancient, beyond the normal era of a building, as if it saw more than its part of history. I walked towards the altar, seeing the disinterest hanging in the air, more than peaceful. As I reached the stone altar, I felt, suddenly, a cold place. It was strange, almost suffocated. I saw around to see if someone else was near. The church was empty. My pulse intensified. I told myself that it was just a draft, then started whispering. I could not exclude the words, but the sound was not denied. It was as if a lot of stones were speaking around me, less lukewarm of voices that came from my own walls. The whisper continued, and I could feel intense the cold crawling my spine down. Although it was unstable, I tried to dismiss it as an estimate of my imagination until I heard a low gut, which looked more human being, more human, as if someone or something was right behind me. My tendency asked me to leave. Some behind my mind urged me to live, understand what was happening. I went deep into the church until I came on the crypt. The monks who once resided in the church were buried there. Perhaps it was his souls that were still stray, or perhaps it was the weight of his decades of devotion that formed a dull energy, a relationship between the world and the next. As soon as I entered the crypt, temperature dropped significantly. I could see my breath in the air. This time I was sure that it was not just a draft. As I continued, the shadow changed, growing strangely in low light. I saw something, a figure, move forward in my peripheral vision. I turned quickly. There was nothing there, just creeping shade. Then I heard whispering again this time, as if they were calling me. My heart entered my chest, but I could not tear myself. Some were forcing me, pulling me into the depth of the crypt. The monks were asked to rest. I reached a stone tomb. Fingers were brushing against the cool surface. When I saw it, a monk's fleeting vision, worn in old clothes, standing beyond the crypt. His face was unclear. His appearance looked very real. He did not speak. He just stared at me. His eyes were hollow. His form was tweeting like a reflection in a pool of disturbed water. This was when I understood what was happening in that church for centuries. The souls of the monks, those who prayed, fasted, and dedicated their lives to faith, did not find peace. The souls were trapped in a place that they could never leave, wandering comfortably through the church, unable to move forward. The church had become a vessel for its unrest, which absorbed their pain and devotion evenly. I left El Templo de San Francisco that night. My views were running. I did not feel any feeling of closed or peace. I thought, unresolved. As I went back through the dark roads of Caracas, I could not feel that the church saw me. I knew that I was there, as monks knew centuries ago, that his prayers would never be responded in life, only in death. I have returned to the church several times since then, but each journey has been different. The whispers are now soft, shadow is less disturbing. But I have come to know that this place is not home for the dead. It is a reminder, reminiscent of which some souls cannot find peace, and some places are to catch them forever. Perhaps it was my rational mind that he was trying to create an understanding of experience, but knew something in me that El Templo de San Francisco was more in San Francisco than an ordinary church. It is a place in history of spiritual importance, yes, but it is also a place where the gender of the past, not only as artifacts and memories, but in the air you breathe, whispering that follows you, and the shadow that is never away. I now wonder whether the monks are still whenever I walk from that church, watching, waiting, and whispered, "Who will hear anyone?" Second story. It was a cool night in the Maracay, Venezuela, and the air was heavy with a long, warm day tension. I sat with Alejandro, my friend Gabriel, who had just returned from a long journey abroad. He had heard stories, of course. Everyone in the city was. The legends around the old house on the Avenida Libertador were well known, which was a part of our collective folklore. However, we did not know that tonight would be part of a story that would add a new chapter in its terrible heritage. Gabriel sometimes doubted. There was no one to believe in such things, but curiosity made him better. "Let's check it out," he said. His voice was with enthusiasm. "These are probably just whispering and rumors, nothing more than this." I hesitated. I lived in Mark throughout my life, and I had since heard stories about the house ever since I was a child. Original owner, a rich family whose name was once synonymous with success, died in mysterious circumstances. Nobody knew complete details. The whisper about their deaths spread like wildfire. Some said that they had died in their sleep. Others claimed that they were victims to play dishonesty. But everyone agreed that something was wrong. Since then, the house was released, with a dark reputation that only increased over time. Nevertheless, temptation to detect the abandoned house was very strong to resist. We gathered our courage and left for the house. Our padiatra is echoing through empty roads. As we contacted, the silhouette of the mansion looked extensively in the dark. Even though the windows were dark, we had a different perception that someone or something was watching from within. "Look, there is nothing to worry about," Gabriel said. There was an edge in his voice that told me that he was not as much confident as he was pretending to be. We walked around the circumference. Be careful not to warn anyone who can still live nearby. The gate, rusty and falling, amazed as soon as we pushed it open. The garden, once succulent with tropical plants, surpassed morning for a long time. The wind felt cold compared to the wind. None of us talked about it. We took it to the veins. As we made our way through the garden, we could not shake the feeling that we are being seen. First, I dismissed it. Then I saw Gabriel a little twisted with his head, as if expecting someone or something, us behind. His grip on the flashlight tightened. "Did you hear that?" Gabriel asked. His voice is a bit far away. I stopped, listening carefully. Nothing but wind. Then suddenly an unconscious sound, cut stabs, through the house, but there was no one around. We saw each other, too uncontrolled but not ready to accept it. Carefully entered the house, stepping into the finger. The wind was thick with dust, and the remains of the furniture were scattered throughout the room, such as forgotten relics of a bygone era. There was something else, an appearance that used to press us from every direction. I felt it first, such as a whisper of cold air brushing my skin. Then there was a surefire sensation to be seen. I turned to Gabriel. "You should leave," I said. My voice is barely above a whisper. Before he could answer, something went to the corner of my eye, a dark silhouette scooting around the space. I froze, heart raced. Gabriel also saw it. Both stood there, paralyzed, as the shadow fell on the edge of the window. Disappears in the dark. That was... Gabriel started, but it did not end. Already steps were now loud, closer, such as someone or something was moving around us. Nevertheless, we did not see anyone. Suddenly, the house groaned, a deep, guttural sound that came from a lot of walls. And then, a single object, an old vase that was sitting on the nearby table, slipped across the surface, as if an invisible hand was pushed. "Okay, that's it. Now we are leaving," Gabriel said. His voice is stressful. But as we turned to leave, the front door closed with a force that shook the house.
We reached the door, only to close it as if something was keeping us inside. When we heard it, a voice, low and far, like a lot of home is coming from the foundation. "You should not have come." My breath got stuck in my neck and Gabriel saw me. His eyes were wide with terror. The atmosphere was suppressive, some older and heavy with the weight of the anti-repayment. We tried to force to open the door, but there was no use. As we struggled, I saw, and for another partition, I saw it. A shape barely appeared in the shade near the ladder. A woman, or something like this. Her eyes empty and hollow, her face turned into a silent scream. The temperature fell in the room, and we both realized that I had ever experienced. I could see my breath in front of me, and Gabriel was moving uncontrollably from my side. Finally, it seemed like an eternity. The door automatically opened. He did not hesitate. He collided with the house until we came back safely on the road. Do not stop. When we went away, we did not say much. Our minds were still running, trying to process what happened. But as we had seen once at home last time, we saw that we had seen something that we had not seen earlier. A dark color size standing in the window above was watching us. We never talked about it again. The house, which is now even more infamous in our mind, remained a part of local folklore, which is a place of whispering. Strange events, such as shady figures appearing in windows, objects moving on their own, and when no one was near, the visitors were not informed. I could never forget the feeling of that night, the presence, coolness, incredible feeling of being seen. The house is still standing in Marrakech. Its terrible reputation is increasing only over time. I don't know what happened that night, but I know whatever force was haunted at that place was real, and it was known that we were there.
For the third story. My name is Alejandro, and I lived in Caracas for most of my life. Growing up, I always heard about the terrible atmosphere around the old cemetery Cementerio General de Caracas in the city's heart. For local people, it is a huge historical site with spiritual and cultural significance. What is really unstable about it? There are stories, whispering that have transmitted to generations. People say that the restless souls of the dead still roam the field, never find peace. As a doubt, we dismissed most of these stories as nothing more than folklore. By the time I found myself there, I met a friend who was working as a groundskeeper. It was a cool, humid night, and the moon was less hanging, putting a long shadow on the old tombs. The cemetery looked almost like a scene from an old horror film, with its huge labyrinth of the mausoleum. Cementerio General de Caracas is not just any cemetery. This is the oldest and most important in Venezuela. With its rich history and ancient burial sites, it is a place to relax for some of the most influential figures of the country. The locals here consider it with a certain reverence, although they also speak it in hushed tone. People come to travel, to mourn, and for some try to contact their ancestors' souls. There is something that always thinks about it. The way the wind becomes through tombs, thick fog that rolls after dark, and once he goes under the sun, he takes uncertain silence. It was during one of the quiet evenings that I decided to walk around the cemetery. My friend mentioned that it was a great place to think, to reflect life, and I felt that I would have something good than a walk. Even though I had visited the cemetery countless times, I could not help. I was feeling a strange discomfort because I had gone around him. I heard I was walking near the old chapel, Adayatra. First, I assumed that they were my own. When I stopped listening, sound continued. Someone was walking behind. I wandered, but there was no one. Hair behind my neck was echoing around me, growing loudly as if following me. As I was following me, I became aware of my appearance. I started creeping a cold in my spine. As my heart raced, I turned to quit quickly, when I saw something from the corner of my eye. In the distance between the tombs, a faint figure still stood, watching me. First of all, I felt that this was just my imagination. When I took a nap, the figure had gone, as if it was never in the first place. I could still hear the footsteps behind me, though. My heart entered my chest because I intensified my speed. In noise, this time whispering, I was asked to surround. It was as if a lot of air around me was thick with something that I could not understand. It was not too long before reaching the old tomb. My friend always said that the oldest in the cemetery. As I contacted, I felt an inexplicable bridge to enter. I never went inside. Some urged me to move forward. Inside the tomb it was dark, the only light coming from the unconscious moonlight through the cracks in the stone. The wind was stale, heavy with the smell of decay and age. This was when I saw another figure. This time, this was clear. Transit shape, which looked as an old funeral apparel, wandered between the tombs and the remaining remains, dressed in the remaining remains. Clarity saw me directly. Her eyes were empty and dark. I froze. What to do is uncertain about what to do. I had heard rumors about the souls of the departed wandering this cemetery, but it was different for the first time. My legs felt like lead, and I was struggling to move. This figure seemed to bake me. Its transit hand is moving towards me as if I wanted me to follow. In a gaze, I proceeded. Before I could reach it, a gust of wind blown through the mausoleum closed the door behind me with a deaf bang. My heart ran, and for a moment, I thought I was trapped. I tried to force to open the door, but it would not move. As I pressed my shoulder against it, whispering increased loudly, and I felt that a cold, icy hand holds my back. Suddenly, the door gave way, and I stumbled in the night air. The cemetery was once again silent, as if nothing happened. The feeling of seeing never left me. I could not shake the sensation that the souls here were aware of my every step. The souls of the dead were not resting in peace. Local people have a name for this: less restless dead. They believe that some souls cannot move forward, that the cemetery itself has the energy of those who died in pain or in mysterious circumstances. It has been said that the cemetery is not just a burial ground, but a place of spiritual conflict, a place where the deceased refuses to remain silent. There are reports of strange shadow between tombs, the reduce the legs of tombs, and whispering that come out from anywhere. But I was most killed about the cemetery. That was its atmosphere. Thick with history, yes, but also with something else, some abstract. It was as if the air was charged with an energy that I could not explain. Still, as I reflect that night, I cannot feel that the cemetery is more than just one place for the dead. It seems as if the souls here never leave. Terrible noise, clarity, condolences to be seen. All of this is very real for rejecting. According to local people, restless souls never really get peace, and I agree with them what I'm doing. Whether it is the dull energy of the deceased or something deep at this place, I do not know. One thing is certain: Cementerio General de Caracas is a place where the veil is thin between the living and the dead, and the souls of the departed are not easily forgotten. I did not return to the cemetery from that night, but every now and then, when the air is correct, I swear that I am calling me back with a soft whisper of the dead.